Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for wanting to learn more about community collaboration to support student success and to learn more about our Community Collaboration Challenge. The goal for our first part of today's sessions to spotlight the importance of collaboration to support student success, both at the state or the local level. And I'm really excited to have some speakers with us today and really to feature their examples of how communities have done this. Both 2023 and 2024 Community Collaboration Challenge awardees are with us today. And then we'll actually follow that with a round of Q&A and a little bit more information about the 2025 challenge and answer the questions that you may have as well. So we're really excited to get started. We're going to jump right in because we have a packed agenda and a full group joining us today. I'd like to go ahead and introduce my colleague Dorothy to get us started.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. I'm Dorothy Jones. I'm the Director of Corporate, State, and Local Partnerships at the National Partnership for Student Success. I'm really excited for all the interest in this year's challenge and also to hear from some of our past awardees today. Hopefully give you a little bit more information, some insight, get your wheels turning about what might be a good collaboration opportunity for you all. Really quickly, I do want to introduce all of our speakers today. So we have Erin McGrath, the Executive Director of Boston Partners in Education. She's been in that role since January of 2018, after more than 12 years with the organization, serving in previous roles as the Power Lunch Program Manager, as a Program Director, and as an academic mentor. We have Joy. She is a nonprofit development professional with more than 15 years of experience in working with small and large nonprofits, as well as associations. And Joy is the National Association of Secondary School Principals as the Senior Manager of Development. And we have Diane as the Training Director at Trekkers, who works to provide guidance, leadership, and program implementation strategies for staff and other youth-serving professionals in rural Maine. Diane has worked with youth for over 20 years and is passionate about connecting them to growth-oriented experiences. And we have Chris, the founder and executive director for Bay Area Tutoring Association, a dedicated social change agent and advocate for K-12 equity in STEM, civic engagement, and entrepreneurial leadership. Chris founded Bay Area Tutoring Association to support youth, particularly at-risk youth, with tutoring and additional academic supports. So let's just jump right in with Boston Partners in Education. They were founded to give Boston Public School students the tools necessary to become better learners. And they were a 2023 awardee of the Community Collaboration Challenge, where we focus on catalyzing events. So bringing stakeholders together to figure out how to bring additional student supports to their communities. And Erin, when we launched the challenge, you had already been convening youth-serving organizations monthly to identify common challenges, discuss best practices, and seek opportunities to better align work with the priorities of the district. So how did you utilize this opportunity to advance your work?
Sure. Thank you, Dorothy. So yes, as you mentioned, back in 2020, actually, we created the Academic Support Collaborative. And so that was a group of nonprofits who all serve students in the Boston public schools, which is where, of course, Boston Partners in Education is focused. We started originally to address challenges that COVID and remote learning have posed to our work. And as you mentioned, we continue to meet even now to learn from each other and from our district partners. The director of the partnerships office at BPS is a regular participant in those meetings, so we already had some connection to the district. But when we learned about the community collaboration grant, we really saw it as an opportunity to connect with some of the stakeholders who we didn't already have at that table. We wanted to reach families, we wanted to reach teachers, school leaders, and school partnership coordinators. We really wanted to uplift the supports that they felt were missing from their school communities. And be able to either direct them to an existing program or resource or figure out how we could provide it. We also wanted a space to share the critical importance of community involvement and student support, right? How do we get folks who are in the communities that our schools are in to be directly involved in that work, and to showcase the opportunities that we had for them to do that. So once we received the grant, we put together a planning committee to figure out the best way to get those stakeholders in the room. And that planning community was some of the folks from the Academic Support Collaborative, it was the partnerships office at the district, and it was folks from the Community Hub Schools Initiative also at the district. So that is an initiative to bring student supports directly into schools. It made total sense to have them involved as part of this process. We knew we wanted, as you said, that this was really about these sort of catalyzing events. And so we wanted something, like I said, where we were going to bring families and school leaders. And so we had to really think through, how are we making this event accessible and inclusive for those groups, for those really disparate groups? So we had to spend a lot of time thinking about the ideal timing, the things we needed to provide, like childcare, food, translation services. So that's really what our planning group focused on. How are we going to take this really big concept and make it something that's accessible and also easy for folks to sort of find themselves in? And so one of the things we chose to do is focus on equitable literacy, because this is something that the District of Boston Public Schools had really been focused on. It's a major area of need. They had done some research and found that basically the previous approach for the past 20 years had not been working for a lot of students, and particularly Black and Brown students and those with disabilities. So there's been this big push to adopt more research-based literacy approaches. And many families and partners either didn't know about those new approaches or weren't sure how to support them effectively. So we thought that having an event that focused on what are the supports that are needed there, and hearing again from the families directly about what they thought would be important would kind of give us the hook to bring people to the table. So what we did, as you can see from the slide, is we put together sort of a multi-part event. We had a nonprofit partner fair. The partnerships office really took on figuring out who could be part of that. We focused on having some established and newer partners so that folks could hear about resources that they maybe had not before. We were also really successful in bringing in district leadership, including the academic superintendent. She presented at the event, but also I think it was really a really good learning opportunity for the folks there, for that leadership team at the district, because they weren't even aware of all of the supports that were available. And so it was great for them to hear about that as well. We provided workshops around equitable literacy from different stakeholders, including teachers from certain schools, from district level folks, and from the nonprofit partners. And we also obtained a partnership with a local bookstore to provide free books for families. So we were able to get quite a few folks to come to this event, despite the fact that we ended up having it on a Friday holiday weekend. We did get a great number of folks to come in, and we learned a lot, both about what folks need, how to help them access it, and just, really how to get more folks involved. It was a great chance for us to show folks ways that they could either volunteer in their community or get supports for their children. And a lasting impact I would say this has had is the district has actually continued to have this fair. The last year they put it on again, and it was a big success. So for me, it really showed the impact that getting lots of different people and the right people at the table can have. It was really important that we had that outside support, nonprofits like ourselves, that district level support, and then bringing families to the table. It just made a really big difference to the success of this effort.
Thanks, Erin. I really appreciate that description as you thought about what you were already doing, but how you could make this and really more expansive and really think about different stakeholders to come and that they're still doing it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Erin. Moving along, we're going to go ahead and highlight a couple more examples for you. We're also joined, as you heard, by Joy Wynn from the National Association of Secondary School Principals. And she's also joined by Derek Lawson, the principal of India High School, their partner. And what we'd like to hear more about from our partners at NASSP and, of course, you, Derek, at Indio High School, is really, again, that theme of bringing together engaging diverse stakeholders. And, how was it that you were able to do that and really serve as a catalyst to neighboring schools and beyond? Particularly, is there anything you were surprised by, like opportunities, unintended positive elements that you're seeing? Just really excited to hear a little bit more about how those stakeholders kind of evolved as you began to think about serving as a model. Joy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much. Yes, so I'm Joy Nguyen with the National Association of Secondary School Principals. And so we are the parent organization to National Honor Society and National Association of Student Councils. And as Jen mentioned, we partnered with one of our member schools, Indio High School, to really use Indio High School in their district as an example to how community collaboration works. And so we were able to share this broadly with our members, our secondary school principal members. And so I'm going to hand it over actually to Derek Lawson over at Indio High School to talk more about the actual work that he did.
Thank you, Joy, and thank you, Jen. The partnership with NPSS, them working with us and in NASSP was phenomenal. At my particular school, we were very isolated. We're out in the Coachella Valley in California, where Coachella Fest happens, but we're very small. My community, I have 2,000 students at my high school, but our entire valley is, a couple of 100,000 people total. And the interaction between schools is very limited. My particular school is 94% Hispanic, 95% Title I, and 28% English learners. So there's not a lot of diversity at my own particular school. And we were reaching out because what we wanted to do was to elevate student voice and give students purpose, promise, and really tap into their potential. And we wanted to reach out into our community because we're very isolated. Our kids have never been involved in anything. They never see beyond the borders of the city. None of my kids had ever left the valley, been on an airplane, even been to the ocean, even though we're 2 hours away. And there's not any interaction between schools. So my first step is we had started a National Honor Society chapter and a National Association of Student Councils chapter at my particular school. And so I'm the only NASSP member in my valley, and we only had those two chapters in the entire valley of 3 school districts and 15 different high schools and 30 middle schools. Well, our effort was to expand that and to interact with kids. After the pandemic, all the research said that elevating student voice, the RAND company, UCLA's research, all the research studies said that we needed to really elevate student voice and get students involved in order to transform education. But if you ask kids, the survey says that all they do is plan school events, pep rallies, spirit weeks, and that. There's no involvement in school policy, mental health program development, school safety plans, nothing. They're not involved in that. I mean, the research was less than 30% across the country for involvement. So we decided we wanted to change that and start in our area. So we launched our chapters and we decided to reach out to all the schools in all 3 districts and to form what we call the Coachella Valley Collaborative, trying to get the kids together. We trained our kids. I took them to a couple of conferences and we really built some training in so that they could lead the effort with kids teaching kids, all of the presidents of each group teaching presidents, all the secretaries teaching secretaries, and doing more than just school site. We went from the typical 20 kids applying to be in student leadership to over 50 this last year. We went from a handful of kids. Our induction the first year for our National Honor Society was 14. This year, we just inducted 30. We now have a couple more principals that are members. We have a couple more chapters of Honor Society in our region. So it's beginning to catch fire and grow. But I think what made me the most excited is some of the ahas. As a result of this, we took kids to school board meetings and to city council meetings to watch during the public comments and open forums, so they could see how policies are made and how things are run. As a result of that, I now have 4 of my kids on the city. My school and 2 others have 4 kids each on the city's youth advisory council that go to every city council meeting and give input. And in all 3 cities now, there are some changes. Like one city added a skate park because of the kids' input. Another city is doing a whole piece on dealing with the stray pet, I don't know what you call it, feral cats and strays in the neighborhood. And our kids are working on or the city next door, they're working on an initiative with that for the city. And then our kids started applying for other things. We have another city, Indian Wells, which is like the highest per capita in the nation, not too far from us. And they run this program where they bring in speakers across the country, and they have a youth initiative. So now, instead of 10 or 12 kids valley-wide applying for ambassadors across these 3 districts, because of this collaborative, they had over 60 kids applying for those ambassadorships to be a part of that community effort. And so we've seen a lot of increase in that, and our students expanding and being parts of things. We began student senates at 3 of the schools that were in our collaborative, and all 3 of them now have input coming in from their kids from every club, every athletic team, and every academic team provides a student representative, and they get to do a process to give their feedback, a walk-around process, sort of like a Delphi technique, with Post-its and everything to help whittle down and identify the issues for them to give feedback. The kids got to devise the cell phone. Instead of fighting it, the kids developed the cell phone policies at one district. And then I think the aha that made me the most proud is a couple of kids applied on their own after being exposed. There's a program in Maine called Safe Bay, which is safe before all others, and it's a student-led organization to help prevent date violence, sexual harassment, teaching about informed consent, and all of those things. And a couple of the kids applied for the scholarship without the advisors knowing it, without any of our principals knowing it. They got it. They went to Maine for a week, were trained, and now they are back doing student-led sessions on their campuses for addressing the Title IX issues and the safety issues and the date violence issues. So it has taken off a whole life of its own. And I was really concerned this year, would the momentum continue? The first meeting in August last year, I had 6 schools out of the 30. This year, we had 22 schools, and I sent Jen a picture. The room I had over 150 kids. It exploded. So now they have protested the school boards to say, we don't want competitions between our ASB kids. We want collaboration. So they have eliminated a couple of the competitive things and now have allowed the kids to meet and are supporting that. As you can see in the picture on the screen, they're getting together to actually develop and give input on programs and share their knowledge and resource. And we now have instituted, small but our first one, we've instituted a tri-district, valley-wide, twice a year student planning where all the presidents meet, all the vice presidents meet, all the secretaries meet, and they help plan not just activities, but all those other pieces to get kids involved and oversee what we call the civic engagement projects, because in California, they can earn a seal of civic engagement from the state when they graduate to put on their diploma. So now they've taken that on as their project. They sponsored a literacy project, they sponsored a voter registration project, and they are sponsoring the feral cat neutering, spaying, take care of the community project. So, and as you can tell, I'm excited because this has gone off the charts. So thank you.
And as I said, Derek, I know we could have talked, all of you, frankly, could have talked this whole time about your work. And I really appreciate, particularly as you took an idea that already existed, but you expanded it. And this opportunity, the award, really allowed you to create sort of the systems and structures to expand. And now, of course, congratulations on the continued sustainment and growth. Thank you so much for being here today, Joy and Derek, and thank you for your partnership. I think it's a great example of how a national organization could, in fact, apply for something like the Community Collaboration Challenge and really utilize national membership to really show what's possible at a local level. Well, now I'd like to move on to hear a little bit more about Trekkers, which was a 2024 awardee. And I invite Diane to come off mute and talk a little bit more about the work at Trekkers, particularly the role collaboration and partnership played in the success of the school day pilot. And so, of course, share a little bit about your mission, but then of course how the pilot really looked a little bit different and gave you space to explore an extension, if you will, of the work that Trekkers does. We're so glad you're here, Diane.
Thank you, Jen. So glad to be here. Yeah, Trekkers is a long-term youth mentoring organization based in Rockland, Maine. And our mission statement is cultivating the inherent strengths of young people through the power of long-term mentoring relationships. So what we really want to do is work with students over long periods of time. We want to build strong relationships, engage them for the middle through high school years, connect them to people, experiences, and opportunities, and just allow them to really blossom into like strong, resilient, independent young people whose voice really matters. I love what you all were just saying about the student voice. Voice and choice is a huge part of our 6-year mentoring program. We have students design their own experiences. We provide support, like wraparound support for our students in schools, out of schools, families, but all of our years are punctuated by developmentally appropriate long expeditions where the students choose what they're going to be doing and where they're going. And they have adventures, outdoor environmental experiences, they do a cultural exchange, they do service projects, all within a cohort of students that travel together throughout 6 years. We've had amazing success in the 6 towns that we serve in this 6-year model. And one of the schools we work closely with, RSU 13 in Rockland, Maine, approached us and was wondering if we could deliver these Trekker-like experiences for students that don't have the ability to join us for the 6-year program, or to go overnight on a 10-day camping trip, or, you know, there's a lot of students that like don't fall into a typical Trekker student. So what they asked was if we could come in and work with students during the school day. So our support, the collaboration began with the high school, and with support of MTSS and other community partners, we started taking our Trekker staff into the high school during school hours to specifically work with the most vulnerable population, the alternative education students, the students who felt that they had a hard time succeeding in traditional school, the students who really needed like a larger sense of community. So we've created 2 cohorts of students during the school day, and they come to us and we kind of run like a mini Trekkers model. We speak to like the needs of the grade levels because we have 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in the alt ed program. We do group mentoring where they move through opportunities as a cohort. We partner with RSU 13 to take the students out of the school during the school day, and we give them experiences. They have a lot of ownership over what we do with them in those periods of time. We focus a lot on community service. We focus a lot on bringing them outdoors. But what this collaboration with MPSS allowed us to do was to have the resources to go into the schools during the school days. We go in twice a week and we take the students out on adventures and experiences that connect them to each other, but also to the community and larger opportunities for like their continued success. We've been taking the groups to work at a local farm where they've been planting and harvesting food and packing it up, and then we bring it to the food pantry. We work with the food pantry to distribute food to folks. We work on our leadership skills. We take them outdoors to experience different things that they don't always have the ability to connect with, just to recognize that there are opportunities out in the world, that they are a part of this community, that their voice matters and their actions matter, and that there are adults who care about them. So like having that sense of community and those strong relationships help them engage more with each other and honestly with school. And a pretty cool, I guess, unintended benefit of having this pilot is we've connected students to like real life job opportunities, right? We have the farm where we work with our students has like offered to hire our students as teen ag assistants, right? We've had our students express interest in like the restaurant industry. So we brought in a chef to talk to them, and some of our students are dishwashers at her restaurant now. So we like are making real life connections between the resources and the opportunities that exist in our community and the students that kind of need that support to be connected to those resources and those tools. And also our program runs with both a full-time staff, but we rely heavily on AmeriCorps volunteers. So this school pilot has been amazing for our AmeriCorps volunteers. Each volunteer is assigned to a cohort of students and works with them repeatedly every week. And because this program runs throughout the school year, it's also like another piece of long-term engagement of supporting adults and like wraparound services from the community.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is just such an excellent place-based example of what it looks like. You have this vision, but what it can just blow up to include, and having it as a school day pilot, offering it to students who may not otherwise have benefited. We're so thrilled that we could be part of that. I did want to note that Diane had shared, and the team there shared, that our funding, of course, is only a portion of the funding. And so I noted that in the chat there. And blending our award with other funding is definitely allowed and encouraged. And so happy to hear you're utilizing AmeriCorps. While that's not a requirement of the application, it's nice to know, and we collect that data since AmeriCorps is one of our federal partners. Diane, thank you so much, and great luck to you as you continue to expand this and continue it throughout the school academic year.
Thank you.
And now our last example before we go into a little more nuts and bolts is I'd like to ask Chris to come off mute. Chris is the executive director and founder of the Bay Area Tutoring Association. And Chris collaborated with a lot of different people. He's going to talk about that, and pulled off the first of its kind summit in the Silicon Valley. And Chris, I would love for you to just talk again, similar to what we've heard, but of course, specific to your experience in terms of the role that collaboration and partnership played in the success of the High Dose Tutoring Summit that you put on. And again, congratulations.
Thank you again, Jen. Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the National Partnership for Student Success in terms of putting the Collaboration Challenge grant out there. I have been thinking about how to bring more energy to the Silicon Valley and the Bay Area based on the national research for high dosage tutoring. And I have been thinking about hosting an event for quite some time. And lo and behold, being a member or participant with the National Partnership of Student Success, the Collaboration Challenge popped up, and I immediately knew what I wanted to do with it. Based on the way that the grant application was written and the additional services and support that Jen and her team would be able to provide throughout the process. I believe that those were very, very critical to the success of the Silicon Valley High Dosage Tutoring Summit. In terms of a couple of elements that really contributed to the success of the Silicon Valley High Dosage Tutoring Summit, it was, collaboration and partnership. They were fundamental to the high dosage tutoring summit. We were able to involve a variety of stakeholders from across the country that we had met with working in other grant programs, as well as performing high dosage tutoring programs in the Bay Area. We were able to accelerate National Student Support Accelerator, outcomes-based contracting, a number of platforms that are also involved in the space. So we were at the Santa Clara County Office of Education, Silicon Valley Education Foundation, a number of local foundations were all very interested in learning more about high dosage tutoring. So the idea of the collaboration challenge and being able to collaborate under the umbrella of the Bay Area Tutoring Association was instrumental. It allowed us to bring, again, educators, district leaders, community organizations, policy advocates, and researchers to their perspective, bring their individual perspectives. The diverse collaboration kept the day moving. We held it on a Friday. And holding it on a Friday and feeding everybody worked out really good because we started early and we ended early so that folks could still get home in time for wherever they traveled from, which was really, really helpful. The structure of engagement was really key based on what we wanted to create for that day. And we wanted to create an environment and an atmosphere of learning about high dosage tutoring. We did not have any vendors. So it wasn't like a conference where folks were being solicited and sold things. It was really extremely informational about what high dosage tutoring is, what's happening across the country, what the research is telling us about how successful it is in comparison to any other MTSS interventions or after schools or the attempts to, again, close the achievement gaps in literacy and math across the country. And so bringing all of those stakeholders together, including several foundations, because since COVID, a number of foundations have turned their energy towards, basic essentials, food, shelter, safety. But one of the things that foundations across this country had traditionally been involved in was education. So bringing them back to the table to say, hey, we need you to bring your attention back to education as many of our systems stabilize was extremely important. In addition to having foundations, researchers from institutions of higher education, we also had a parent panel of primarily bilingual parents who spoke about the value of high dosage tutoring and the change that they saw in their children in such a short time, about the self-efficacy, about the confidence and their willingness to support their peers in the classroom. It was really an amazing day of learning, and being able to partner with a county office of education as the host site really added additional validity to the fact of the work that we were doing. While we are a well-recognized nonprofit organization in the Bay Area, we're not recognized in the education space in the same way. So being able to partner with the Santa Clara County Office of Education, University of Chicago, Stanford University, again, Santa Clara Schools Foundation, Eastside Education Foundation, Innovate Public Schools, and a variety of others that really care about student outcomes in the state of California, we were able to create some interest and some buzz about, we want to know more about high dosage tutoring. We want to understand how it works. We want to see what it looks like. And the follow-up has been extremely positive in terms of what the state is starting to talk about doing around high dosage tutoring, not the traditional, what we call low touch after school homework help tutoring, but intentional in the areas of the academic support in key subject areas that create college and career readiness. I would say my advice for other community catalysts would be to identify and engage key stakeholders early. Map out key individual organizations who are deeply connected to your issue and involve them from the start. Create inclusive and accessible structures. Use diverse engagement strategies. We used LinkedIn, we used Eventbrite, we used local education media to put the word out about the event. And then focus on the long-term relationship building. Because we used a platform like Eventbrite, we have everybody's email address, we have everybody's contact information in a simple, easy to use location that we were able to export into our contact management system so that we're able to keep in touch with all of the participants on an ongoing basis. And I'll stop right there.
Chris, amazing. And we're so happy that you were able to pull this off. And we look forward to hearing about all the things that happen as a result of meeting your community where you're at. And this was where they were at. They needed to understand better what opportunities high dose tutoring, what the research and evidence-based research says about it, so that now as a community, you can find ways to support that long term.
Absolutely.
And you kicked off our lightning round. I'm going to turn it over to Dorothy to wrap us up here.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Chris. So quick lightning round question to everyone. It's going to be the same question. Answer in 30 seconds or less. What advice do you have for others looking to be catalysts in their communities? And Erin, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I would say my biggest advice is bringing the right folks together to think through the problem you're trying to solve, right? Getting the right folks at the table, so you don't have to do this all by yourself.
Thank you, Erin. Diane, you're next on my screen.
I think the key to making this happen is relationships with the people you're working with, the relationships in your community, relationships with outside partners, just building and maintaining the relationships and making sure that everybody is like on the same page, working towards a shared goal is what makes it work.
Absolutely. Thanks, Diane. Joy.
Or maybe Derek.
Derek, let's do Derek.
Well, for my particular process, I would say rather than just communicating in print, one of the things I learned is when we started doing short little clips, we would just take our cell phone and do a quick little 30-second or 60-second message, doing the same thing, but instead of writing with a video and sending that out, we had double the response. Because I think today's world, everybody, they don't always read everything, but if they can listen to it or watch it while they're driving or in transit or somewhere and they have a spare minute, I would say expand your communication, think outside the box, and do it more than just with print communication, because it made a bigger impact when we did video piece.
Yeah. Way to think outside the box there for sure. And Chris, last bit of advice for folks.
You have the idea, ask yourself, what's stopping you from executing? Answer those questions, and then once you answer those questions, solve those problems and go for it. That is the thing that I would say is most important. You have to be willing to go for it. Erase those fears and doubts in your mind that it's not possible. Someone else is going to do it. No, the idea is on your heart to bring to life, and you need to follow through with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And yes, follow through, apply for the challenge. We love reading your submissions. So please do that. Huge thank you to all of our speakers for today. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk about what these partnerships could look like, and what the work is that you've done. So just huge amount of gratitude to you for being here with us.